Welcome to NarrativeNook Audiotales, where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Don't sweat it. It was Bella who sniffed out the mole in the company. You might not know, but Linda, the HR manager sent over from the head office, had been fiddling with the attendance records. She only showed up for work 78 days in a year, yet she pocketed our full year's salary and perfect attendance bonus. Oh, and don't forget the year-end bonus, Kenneth said. Louisa was taken aback. How did Bella find out? I'm not entirely sure, just heard from the grapevine that Bella was going to let Linda off the hook. But Linda strutted into the office, spouting a load of trash about Bella loud enough for everyone to hear. A crowd gathered to watch the drama, and that's when Bella pulled out the evidence and called the cops. Kenneth said, Bella did a great job. She's amazing. Louisa was impressed how Bella kept her cool when faced with such a hostile ex-employee. She had some serious guts. Ms. Bennett is truly remarkable. Young yet such a whiz in business. Totally. She's definitely got the Collins business smarts running in her veins. She's definitely a chip off the old Collins block. Just as brilliant as her brothers. Congrats to Mr. and Mrs. Collins for having such a wonderful and beautiful daughter. The company's in good hands, you guys can breathe easy now. Kenneth and Louisa, hearing all the praises, couldn't help but feel elated. Initially, they handed the company to Bella just to keep her busy. Little did they know she would do such a stellar job. It was a sight to behold. Serena, eavesdropping from a corner, was green with envy as Bella stole the spotlight again. Yet she kept a smile on her face and walked in with some goodies. Mom, Dad, I'm back. Guess what I got for you? Is it from Bright Restaurant? Louisa asked. Yes, I heard their stuff is a tough get. Even if you're loaded, you still have to queue up for a spot. Serena said. Serena, you went queuing for this? Louisa was instantly concerned. As long as it makes you happy, I don't mind the wait. Serena unpacked the items and said with a smile, let's eat while it's still hot. In reality, it was the bodyguard who had to queue. Serena only took the food home after it was handed to her. It took minimal effort on her part, but Louisa was already touched. Maybe she could use this trick more often to win their hearts. You're a Collins heiress, let the staff take care of these things next time, Kenneth said. Upon hearing this, Serena hugged Kenneth again. I know you care about me, Dad. I only dare to hug you like this when Sis isn't around. Now, let's sit down and eat. Kenneth felt guilty upon hearing this. Serena was the daughter they raised as their own. With Bella's return, her status indeed took a hit. She must be feeling upset. Even with Bella back, you're still our daughter. We'll always look out for you in your future married life. Louisa gently stroked her head, her affection for Serena profound. Thank you. Serena beamed. I don't need anything. As long as I can be with you, take care of you, I'm content. You silly child. Louisa chuckled, her heart twinged with a hint of sadness. Her daughter was growing up too fast. Elsewhere, Carl placed a document in front of Romeo. Mr. McMillian, this needs your signature. I've checked it, everything's in order. For small-scale contracts like this, Carl would check them first for Romeo. Romeo was always busy, and he usually didn't handle such minor contracts himself. Romeo flashed a smile, signed the contract with a flourish. Mr. McMillian, you seem to be in a good mood today? Carl asked. Did he make $1 billion deal, or maybe he pulled one over on arrival? Or did he just acquire a couple of powerhouse companies? If not, then why the grin that won't leave his face? Look up popular restaurants and places of interest that young women might enjoy in the area. Hearing Romeo's words, Carl had an aha moment. So, his good mood has something to do with Miss Bella. When he walked into the office earlier, he saw Romeo on the phone with someone. Could that someone be Miss Bella? Mr. McMillian, you're taking quite an interest in Miss Bella, aren't you? In the past, Romeo never asked him to search for popular restaurants and attractions. A simple meal was enough before returning to work. But ever since he met Miss Bella, the aloof Romeo seemed to be warming up. At least his eyes were no longer only occupied by work. It can't be all about work. It's time to consider a personal life. Hearing Romeo say this, Carl was left with a few questions in his mind. Mr. Macmillan, are you talking about me? Who else? Romeo glanced at him, saying nonchalantly, when you have a girlfriend, you won't have to work weekends, and your pay will increase. Has Romeo changed? Could Miss Bella have such an allure that she introduced Romeo to the sweetness of love? Thank you. I'll get a girlfriend as soon as I can. As Carl said this, preparing to leave with his files, he saw Romeo's phone light up with a new message. What surprised Carl was not the message but Romeo's lock screen and home screen wallpaper, a girl's silhouette. And it was Miss Bella. Like what you see? Romeo noticed his gaze and asked casually. No, I wouldn't dare look at Miss Bella. Carl lowered his head, no longer daring to look. So you're saying she's not good looking? Of course not, Carl said, breaking out in a cold sweat. Miss Bella is so beautiful. Words can't describe her beauty. She is like a fairy descended to earth, unique in the world. You two are a match made in heaven. Romeo smiled and said, You sure have a way with words. I'm not very cultured, and it's just that Miss Bella's beauty has inspired all the beautiful words in my mind. It's because Miss Bella is so beautiful. Carl. Yes, Mr. Macmillan, what do you need? Carl felt a bit uneasy. Have I ever treated you poorly since you started working with me at 8? Romeo's question took Carl aback. No, you've given me the highest salary in the industry. I'm delighted. No, you can't just look at the present, be content with the status quo. Carl was a bit puzzled. From this month on, your salary will be doubled. When Carl heard this, he was over the moon. Mr. Macmillan, thank you so much. I'll bust my hump to finish everything, especially things concerning Miss Bella. I won't let you down. All right. I'll be on my way then. Carl couldn't believe that just buttering up Miss Bella was more effective than having a girlfriend. His wage has been stuck in a rut for 3 years. Just because he praised Miss Bella's looks, he got a pay raise that doubled his salary. Just as Carl was on cloud 9, he heard Romeo's voice. Hold on. Romeo seemed to have thought of something. Those few corporations we acquired recently. Mr. Macmillan, are you referring to those luxury brand corporations? Don't worry. They've been incorporated into our Macmillan Corporation. They newly released Love Forever series. Do you think she would like that? Upon hearing this, Carl realized why Mr. Macmillan had stopped him. He quickly replied, Mr. Macmillan, you're such a jokester. With Miss Bella's good looks, she would still look stunning even in a potato sack. Oh. Romeo raised an eyebrow at him. As long as it's from you, Miss Bella would definitely love it. After all, what you're giving her isn't just a gift but also your genuine feelings. Miss Bella would definitely be touched when she receives it. Take this weekend off. No need to work overtime. Carl was overjoyed. Thank you, Mr. Macmillan. At the Collins family's house, Kenneth and Louisa went for a stroll in the garden, hand in hand. Martha quickly called Serena over and whispered, Miss Serena, you went out of your way to queue up and buy things for the master and madam. That must have been tough. Before Serena could respond, Martha quickly added, trying to win over the master and madam alone won't do you any good. The most important one is Mr. Macmillan. At the mention of Romeo, Serena's face immediately soured. I think Romeo only has eyes for my sister. You saw it too last time in the garden. He was pretty cold towards me. I wonder if it's because the soup I made upset Grandpa Philip's condition, and he now has a bad impression of me. Even Grandpa Philip has been giving me the cold shoulder. Well, you have to do something to turn the tables. I know. So, what do you think I should do? Serena's string of failures had worn down her grace. She felt like she couldn't take it anymore. After all, she had been leading a comfortable life for the past few years and never had to swallow her pride like this before. Since Arabella returned, her humiliation was more than she had experienced in the past 10 or more years. Miss Serena, listen to me. Martha looked around and then whispered something into her ear. Serena hesitated. Will this work? What if? No what ifs. Martha looked at her confidently. Even if Mr. Macmillan rejects you at first, as long as you show your sincerity, he won't pay attention to Miss Bennet anymore. Serena's hesitation lessened, and she seemed more resolved than before. Just then, she heard a noise from the corner and was startled. "Who's there?" "Miss Serena, it's me." The person who came out from the corner was Eric. Serena and Martha looked at each other, unsure how much Eric had overheard their conversation. Both felt somewhat uneasy. "Miss Serena, you don't have to worry. I support you," Eric said politely. "If I frightened you just now, I apologize." Hearing Eric say this, Serena was skeptical. "My sister is my parents' biological daughter. Why don't you support her, but support me instead?" Hearing him say that, Serena looked at Martha as if to confirm the credibility of his words. Martha nodded, confirming that he was trustworthy. "Of course." Eric looked at her, his eyes shimmering with friendliness. "Whether at home or outside, let me know anytime if you need any help, Miss Serena. I do need your help with something." Serena gestured for him to come closer and whispered something. Not long after, Eric came to report, "Miss Serena, Mr. McMillian will be having lunch at the Ferris wheel restaurant." Upon hearing this, Serena couldn't help but feel excited. Is the news reliable? Absolutely. Serena didn't expect the first task she assigned him to be completed so quickly and well. She took out a bank card. "If you perform well in the future, I will deposit some money into this card." "I don't need Miss Serena's money." Eric quickly expressed his loyalty. "It's an immense honor to serve you, Miss Serena." "Take it," Serena insisted on rewarding him. "Once I marry Mr. McMillian, you and Martha can join me in the McMillian family and enjoy the good life." "Thank you, Miss Serena." Eric took the bank card, overjoyed. When Kenneth and Louisa returned from their walk in the garden, they saw Serena looking so stunning, like a blooming white rose. They couldn't help but ask, "Serena, where are you going, all dressed up like this?" "A good friend is getting married. I'm attending her celebration." Serena was wearing a gorgeous gown, her hair was up, and the jewelry on her body shimmered. She had grown up being pampered, exuding an elegance nurtured by money and skincare products. Seeing Serena's delicate makeup, Louisa couldn't help but comment, "Serena, you look so beautiful. Our darling, always the apple of our eye, how could she not be beautiful?" Kenneth chirped, "Let Aiden drive you there." "No need. Eric is driving me today." Serena smiled, "This way, my friend will feel honored." "Okay, Eric, drive Serena there." The Ferris wheel restaurant, as the name suggests, was a dining experience in a glass cabin. The Ferris wheel had 28 cabins, each measuring 25 square meters. When the Ferris wheel reached its highest point, it was 128 meters from the ground, offering a view of half the city's beauty and the sparkling sea. Since it was built, it had been a popular spot for influencers and streamers. As the seats were limited, reservations were booked up to 6 months in advance. It was extremely popular. Before Serena exited the car, she looked up at the giant Ferris wheel and asked with some puzzlement, "Eric, why is there no one up there? At noon, how could no one be dining at this popular restaurant? Where is Romeo? Hasn't he arrived yet? Strange, why isn't the Ferris wheel moving? Is it broken?" "Miss Serena, you may not know, but for ordinary people to dine here, they first need to have enough patience to wait, and secondly, they need to have enough money to afford it. Because a set meal costs $999, and this is just the minimum charge." $999 to Serena is just pocket change, but for ordinary people, it's equivalent to 1 or 2 months' salary. After a while, a luxury limousine came into Serena's view, and her eyes immediately lit up. It was Romeo. She would never mistake that license plate. "It's Mr. McMillian." Eric recognized it too. It's Mr. McMillian's car. "Miss Serena, do you see? Mr. McMillian is here." The limousine drove past them and stopped at the distant entrance. Carl got out, very professionally opening the rear door. Before Serena could smile, she saw a girl leave the limousine. That pretty face, who else could it be but Arabella? Why was she in Romeo's car? Could it be that she came with Romeo? Before Serena could figure it out, Romeo exited the car, took Arabella's hand, and entered the Ferris wheel restaurant through the VIP entrance together. Eric was also taken aback. Why would Mr. McMillian come here with Miss Bella? He hadn't heard any news about this before. Looking at Serena's expression in the rear view mirror, it didn't seem too good. What should he do? Serena finally realized why the Ferris wheel wasn't moving and why no one was inside. It was because Romeo had booked the entire place. He wanted to have a private meal with Arabella and didn't want to be disturbed by others. Miss Serena, I think you could also go in and dine with them. After all, Miss Bella is your relative. Eric plucked up the courage and voiced his thoughts. If you go in, you can prevent their relationship from progressing. Right, he has a point. Serena thought she couldn't let them be alone together in case they developed feelings. She got out of the car, and her stunning outfit immediately caught Arabella's attention in the glass cabin, and a few question marks popped up in Arabella's mind. Was Serena going to a wedding with that outfit? Her jewelry was so dazzling under the sunlight that it was hard to look directly at. From head to toe, one word could describe her: extravagant. Serena arrived at the entrance and was politely stopped by the greeter. Eric quickly stepped forward, cleared his throat. This lady is the heiress of the Collins family. With the Collins family's status back home, stepping foot in this restaurant is practically like giving them free publicity. But the greeter says apologetically, "I'm sorry, Serena, but the place is booked solid today. Sorry about that. We're looking forward to your next visit." To be honest, the girl inside, she's my cousin. And that guy, I know him too. After Serena said this, she removed her diamond ring and pushed it into the greeter's hand. She smiled and said, "I need to talk to them." "Don't worry, I'll take the heat if they have any complaints." The greeter didn't dare to take her stuff. After all, with Mr. McMillion's status, if he had let someone in behind the scenes and messed up Mr. McMillion's business. The greeter quickly returned the ring and said, "I'm sorry, Serena, please don't put us in a tough spot." She quickly closed the door, scared that Serena might barge in. What an insensitive person. Eric is angry and about to use Kenneth's status to intimidate the greeter. But Serena's eyes seemed a bit dim as she said, "Forget it. They won't dare to offend Romeo. Let's go." Just like that, we're just going to leave? What else can we do? Stick around to watch their lovey-dovey show. Serena gave Eric a look, her tone sounding a bit reproachful. Get the facts straight next time. Yeah. All my fault. Okay. Eric didn't expect things to go this far. I swear, none of this will happen again. Let's grab a bite first. Serena looked at the Ferris wheel. We'll head to MC Million Corporation in a bit. All she could do now was suck it up. After all, it'd be a waste of her effort getting all dolled up today. She was confident that she would take Romeo's breath away the moment he saw her. Inside the Ferris wheel cabin, Arabella was admiring the view when Romeo handed her a gift. Take a look. His gaze was soft. Arabella opened the box to find a beautiful diamond bracelet. The centerpiece was a butterfly ready to take flight, symbolizing transformation and rebirth. On either side of the butterfly were 99 diamonds of equal size, closely linked together. The bracelet was unique and exuded elegant luxury, showcasing a woman's unique charm. Looking at the dazzling bracelet, she noticed the initials RNA Forever engraved on the clasp. Did this mean he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her? Do you like it? Romeo watched her reaction, saying gently, "It would look beautiful on your lovely hand." Why did you give me this? Because I like you. Do I need any more reason? If she insisted on a reason, it was because he was inspired by her beautiful collarbone, which looked like a lifelike butterfly during a blackout at his grandfather's house. He designed this bracelet himself and personally supervised its crafting by a master jeweler. Among all the production lines he managed, he had never supervised one personally. This girl broke his routine. You accepted my grandmother's necklace, so naturally, you should accept my gift. No playing favorites. Romeo didn't give her a chance to refuse. He took the bracelet and put it on her delicate wrist. Its novel design and fine craftsmanship made it even more luxurious and elegant when worn. Romeo revealed a doting smile. It looks beautiful. No one else could pull off this look. Even his top jewelry spokesperson couldn't give him the satisfaction and awe he felt at this moment. His girl was so beautiful. She looked good without the bracelet, even more so with it on. A waiter serving dishes nearby couldn't help but steal glances at Arabella. With her top-notch beauty and fresh aura, it's no wonder she caught Romeo's favor. But what was her background? She accepted such a precious gift without any reaction. She would have been crying joyfully if it were an ordinary girl. This girl must be extraordinary if she could make Romeo show such a doting gaze and carefully cherish her. "Thank you." Arabella calmly picked up her knife and fork and started eating her steak. Romeo smiled. "Let me cut it for you." He cut the steak into pieces, put them on her plate, and with a gentle voice said, "Eat more." Her phone vibrated a few times. She took it out, which was a message from her assistant Dean. "Boss, about the company cafeteria. Could you please pay some attention to it? The food here usually tastes so, but recently it has a weird taste. Even though I rarely go to the cafeteria, I've heard grumbles from the staff about it for a while now." Dean also attached a picture, adding, "Mr. Oscar's relative runs this cafeteria, charging us a whole $1 per meal." Arabella's slender fingers typed back, "Looks like the food is kinda meh. The food has been okay these past few days. The kitchen staff knows you're shaking up the company, so we even got fish soup for lunch today. Take a look." Dean sent over another picture. Arabella looked at the color of the soup. "Something's off about the color." "Huh? What?" "Boss, don't freak me out. Isn't fish soup supposed to be white?" Arabella zoomed in on the picture, then looked at the other foods Dean captured, replying, "Save me some samples of everything. I'll check it out when I get back." Dean felt his appetite vanish at her words. Romeo noticed she was continuously replying to messages. Busy? Something up at the company? A bit. Arabella finished her meal, planning to return to the company cafeteria to check things out. "Let's head back." She had barely stood up and taken a few steps before Romeo pulled her back into his arms. "It's still early." Romeo gazed at her beautiful profile. "Stay with me a bit longer." Arabella was a bit exasperated. Hadn't she already accompanied him for lunch? Wasn't that enough? "I want you with me." Romeo held her tighter, breathing in her scent. "I miss you. Seeing you makes me want to be with you. I hope you can always be by my side." The two waitstaff and the restaurant manager, who overheard, were quite surprised. Is the notoriously cold and ruthless Romeo whispering sweet nothings to a girl? Had they misheard, or were the rumors wrong? "People are watching." Arabella's tone was a mix of helplessness and annoyance. This man seemed to be getting clingier, and his words blunter. Romeo glanced around. The restaurant manager and the two waitstaff immediately turned around, daring not to stare at them any longer. "Bella." Romeo's arms tightened around the girl before him, his voice seductive. "I want to do everything couples do." Arabella was speechless. "I want to do it many times. I don't have time." Arabella had been so bothered by him lately that she could hardly get any private work done. "I can wait for you to finish." Romeo predicted her refusal by gently saying, "Wait until you're free to be with me." The Ferris wheel slowly reached its peak. Arabella's eyes filled with the beautiful cityscape, but all she could hear was, "I like you." This was the first time Romeo had said, "I like you," since they met. She was a bit taken aback. Before she could react, he continued, "I like holding you like this. I like being with you. I like you as you are, regardless of your temperament or looks. I like it all." Carl checked the time, planning to pick up Mr. Macmillan and Ms. Bella. But as he opened the door, he saw 3 people making strange faces at him, seemingly telling him not to interrupt Mr. Macmillan's romantic moment. Carl vaguely heard Romeo's confession, and he couldn't believe it, looking at the 2 entwined figures not far away. "Arabella, I like you." Romeo gently kissed her cheek. Arabella could feel her cheeks getting warm, her body feeling a bit hot. A strange sensation surged in her heart. Was it falling in love? If not, then why was her heartbeat accelerating? "I hope to be with you every day." Romeo held her close, his handsome face gently rubbing against her delicate one. Arabella didn't reject this intimacy and didn't push him away, but after a while she calmly said, "We should get going." It was getting late. Romeo's hand still tightly held hers as he dropped Arabella off at her company's entrance. He looked down at the girl in his arms and asked, "I'll bring you afternoon tea later. Anything in particular you want?" "You're free now?" she queried. "I just happen to have some free time." From the driver's seat, Carl froze at his words. He thought, "Mr. Macmillan, you have 2 meetings this afternoon, 3 partners to meet, and over a dozen documents that need your decision. Are you sure you're free? I'm not hungry, Arabella announced, preparing to leave the car. Romeo embraced her tightly, saying, "Just a little longer. We're going to be late." "Just a little longer," he insisted, inhaling her sweet scent. It was intoxicating. "Don't bring me anything to eat this afternoon," Arabella said, sounding slightly helpless. "I'm a bit busy. Do you need my help?" "No." After being detained by Romeo for a while, Arabella finally managed to pull away from his grasp and hurriedly headed toward her company. "Mr. Macmillan, it seems like Miss Bella was in a hurry to leave," Carl observed as he watched Arabella's retreating figure. He glanced in the rearview mirror to find Romeo's gaze fixed on the girl. "Oh, and Mr. Macmillan, the restaurant manager asked me to give you these." Carl unlocked his phone and sent a dozen pictures to Romeo's phone. They were photos from their lunch at the Ferris wheel restaurant. The handsome man and beautiful woman were eye-catching. Even Romeo himself could hardly believe the tenderness and adoration in his own eyes as he looked at Arabella in the photos. Though Arabella was looking at the scenery outside, oblivious to his gaze, it didn't stop him from admiring her beauty. What was she thinking then, he pondered, looking at her bright eyes. Romeo's slender fingers scrolled through the photos, each one captured from a perfect angle. He simply said, "Tip." Carl promptly transferred $1,000 to the restaurant manager. "Actually, Mr. Macmillan, I also took a few shots." Carl showed Romeo the candid photos he had taken of Romeo and Arabella enjoying the view together. They looked like a perfect match. "Mr. Macmillan, just to be clear, I'm not asking for anything. I just thought you two looked good together," Carl clarified, fearing that Romeo might get mad at him for sneaking pictures without his knowledge. But Romeo didn't say a word. After a moment, Carl's phone chimed with an Apple Pay notification. His eyes widened at the sight of the number, 7,777, 4 sevens. Had Mr. Macmillan really just transferred that much money to him in one go? Was this a reward? As he tried to contain his excitement, he asked, puzzled, "But Mr. Macmillan, what does this number mean?" Romeo saved each photo, then casually explained, "It means Bella and my story will be as lucky as the number 7. Carl couldn't help but feel engulfed by the sweetness of love after hearing such an explanation. Romeo set his 2 favorite photos as his screensaver and wallpaper, then looked back at the building where Arabella worked, a hint of longing in his eyes. "Let's head back to Macmillan Corporation." Carl could clearly detect the nostalgia in his voice. Miss Bella had only been gone a short while, and he was already missing her? At Macmillan Corporation, Serena had prepared afternoon tea for the 6 receptionists, who were all beaming with joy. "Long time no see, Miss Serena. You've brought gifts again. Did you get them from that fancy hotel down the street? Their stuff's a bit too rich for our blood. Makes us feel guilty eating it. We're so lucky to have you, Miss Serena. You keep treating us to these gourmet delicacies. Even after all this time, you're still a knockout, Miss Serena. We're seriously blessed to have a boss like you. Not only are you generous and stunning, but you've also got talents that put other heiresses to shame." Serena smiled at their compliments, then laughed and pretended to be mad. "There's no honey in the afternoon tea, but you all sure know how to lay it on thick. Miss Serena, you just keep getting more beautiful. Could you share your secret?" One of the receptionists stared at Serena, resting her chin in her hands, admiring her flawless skin without a single pimple to be seen. "Don't get your hopes up. The skincare products Miss Serena uses are probably too expensive for us." As Serena listened to their chit-chat, about to say something, she noticed they all suddenly stood up, frantically fixing themselves up, and respectfully greeted, "Good afternoon, Mr. Macmillan." Serena turned to see Romeo had returned. "Romeo." Before Serena could approach him, several senior staff rushed over, bombarding Romeo with urgent matters, then swiftly heading towards the elevator as if ignoring Serena's call. Carl stayed behind, blocking Serena's way. "Miss Serena, you're looking for Romeo?" No one heard. "I brought afternoon tea for Romeo. And for you too, Carl. I wanted to discuss something with Romeo." Serena glanced at the retreating figure, a little anxious. Carl was stopping her from going forward, leaving her helpless. "I really need to see Romeo. Romeo has urgent matters to attend to. I can wait for him. It might take a while for Romeo to finish up. Perhaps you could go home first, Miss Serena." You can always call or text Romeo. No, it's okay. I'll wait upstairs. There are some things I want to tell him in person. Serena attempted to pass, but Carl kept blocking her. If there's something you need, Miss Serena, you can tell me. I can relay the message to Romeo. Carl's obstruction was getting on Serena's nerves. But considering her position, she smiled and said, Carl, do you plan on blocking my way indefinitely? I apologize. I just didn't want you to wait in vain. As I've said, no matter how long he's busy, I'll wait. Serena deftly sidestepped Carl and headed for the elevator. Watching Serena's retreating figure, Carl felt unease. He knew that Romeo only had eyes for Miss Bella and didn't care much for others. Seeing Serena enter the elevator, he had no choice but to follow. The receptionists were left clueless about the situation, sensing some hidden tension. Do you think Mr. Macmillan doesn't like Miss Serena? No way. Miss Serena is so accomplished. Whether her looks, knowledge, talent, or family background, there isn't a second one like her in this world. But why did Carl stop her? Mr. Macmillan probably didn't mean to ignore Miss Serena. When he walked in, you saw that a bunch of managers needed his attention. Carl likely didn't want Miss Serena to wait in vain. He's cold to everybody. It seems like only work can catch his eye. We've been here for years. Has Mr. Macmillan ever really looked at us? Not that I recall. So, their marriage is strong. We don't need to worry about it. If something's up with their relationship, how can Miss Serena still laugh? Can she even be in the mood to go buy afternoon tea? Miss Serena is only 18, already so successful, born with a silver spoon, and her fiancé is pretty top-notch. She's way better than us in every aspect. All right, keep your voices down. If someone hears you, it'll tarnish the company's reputation. Arabella walked into the office. The assistant dean had already laid out the food he had brought back on a small table. 13 dishes in total. Miss Bennet, you're here? Dean lifted his head and respectfully said, This is the food prepared for lunch. Arabella looked at the food on the table, picked up the fish soup to smell it, then picked up a dish of corn kernels fried with small sausages to examine it, even separating the sausages with a fork. The color and smell of it cooled her gaze a bit. Miss Bennet, is the food still fresh? Dean sensed Arabella's dissatisfaction. Let's go to the cafeteria. Seeing Arabella rushing towards the cafeteria, a few curious employees sneakily followed. Arabella arrived at the cafeteria, and a dishwasher was washing dishes. 2 chefs were resting in the outdoor garden. They saw Arabella, not knowing who she was, but seeing Dean following behind, they guessed her identity. It must be the new CEO who recently made the employees nervous, Ms. Bennet. Mr. Dean, is this Ms. Bennet? One of the young chefs extinguished his cigarette on the sole of his shoe and asked. Seeing Arabella walk into the kitchen, Dean softly explained, Ms. Bennet is just looking around. No need to be nervous. When Arabella entered the kitchen, she saw it was dirty and messy. The young chef explained, We haven't had time to clean up after cooking lunch. Usually, it's very clean. Last week, government staff came for inspection, and we got an A rating. Call your manager. Hearing Arabella's icy voice, the young chef was stunned and quickly said, Our manager is usually not here. Then ask him to come over. Arabella coldly said, Immediately. Yes. The young chef was intimidated by Arabella's aura and quickly called the manager. Just a few minutes after the call was made, before the manager had even arrived, Oscar showed up. Miss Bennet seems to have much free time, even coming to the kitchen. Oscar received the news and rushed over at top speed, seeing Arabella looking at the frozen meat in the fridge. Miss Bennet, did you forget? Our cafeteria has been outsourced to a catering company outside. Even if inspections needed, it shouldn't be done by our company's people. Oscar said with a smile. From a legal standpoint, the company is responsible for the outsourced cafeteria. Mr. Oscar, you're getting old, and if you don't understand the law, it's okay. Arabella lifted her gaze, looking at the man before her with a blank expression and a small smile playing on her lips. I heard the cafeteria manager is your relative? Oscar blinked, letting out a sarcastic laugh. Does Miss Bennet have a problem with me? Are you looking to pick a fight with my family? Arabella chuckled softly, glancing up at the surveillance camera. Just as she suspected, the camera had already been switched off. "Turn the camera on," Arabella instructed her assistant. "Miss Bennet, what are you trying to do?" Oscar was clearly unhappy with her actions. "If the cameras here need to be turned on, it's not our company's job to do it." "Miss Bennet, it's on now," the assistant dean reported back after completing the task, speaking respectfully. At this point, the cafeteria manager rushed over, mopping his sweaty forehead. He noticed the young girl beside Oscar and couldn't help but ask, "Mr. Oscar, this is? Didn't you get the memo? We've got a new big shot in the company, and she's flexing her muscles right here." Oscar clearly didn't think much of the girl in front of him. Manager Dave caught Oscar's drift but still responded with a smile. "Miss Bennet, if you have something to say, spit it out. There are some meat pies left over from lunch. I just warmed them up, along with some other dishes. Dean, please have Mr. Dave and Mr. Oscar taste them." "Sure thing." Dean immediately set about preparing the food. Oscar and Dave exchanged glances, clueless about her intentions. "Miss Bennet, if you're trying to get us to taste the food to improve it." Before Dave could finish, Arabella interrupted him with a curt, "Please." The food was promptly laid out before them. Dave didn't refuse, picking up a piece of the meat pie and taking a bite. "Tastes good." Oscar didn't touch his cutlery. He looked impatiently at the girl before him and said, "If Miss Bennet is inviting us to lunch, you really shouldn't have. I'm full already." "Is Mr. Oscar full, or are you too scared to eat?" Arabella's words made everyone present tense, and the employees who were sneakily watching the showdown started to feel uneasy. "What do you mean by that, Miss Bennet?" Oscar asked irritably. Dave hastily interjected, "This was freshly made by the chefs at lunchtime, right?" The two chefs nodded vigorously, though their eyes betrayed their anxiety and fear. "I didn't say it wasn't freshly made." Arabella smirked coldly. "I'm just curious about the filling. What's it made of?" "The filling." Dave paused before laughing. "Miss Bennet, you're quite the joker. Of course, the filling is fresh pork bought from the market by our chefs, minced and made into pies. Are you referring to the minced meat made from soy protein chunks chopped up and mixed with tapioca starch, a series of food additives, and pork essence? And the spring onions inside, replaced by spring onion oil? Am I right?" Everyone was gobsmacked. What? The meat pies they had for lunch didn't have any meat, and they were all food additives. They all felt like throwing up. "Miss Bennet, you can't just make wild accusations because you are young. Do you have any evidence for what you're saying? If not, you're slandering our cafeteria." Though Dave said this, his eyes were clearly shifty, and even Oscar couldn't hide his expression anymore. Whether the filling in this pie is fresh meat or not, wouldn't a lab test tell us? Arabella looked at them, speaking with clear interest. "Mr. Dave, when you were eating that meat pie just now, you felt a bit uneasy and scared, didn't you?"
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.